All right. Hey, everybody. It's the 25th of February, 2025. 22525. Cool. Um, this is Aiken PBL live coding from Gimbalabs and friends. We get together on Tuesdays at 12:30 UTC to look at the Aiken programming languages, which is one of the smart contract languages that you can use to build on Cardano. Before we get started, just some announcements. We made this announcement on the Gimbal Labs Discord yesterday, but there are two new meetings that we're adding to our schedule. Tomorrow is going to be the first meeting of our All Things Go meeting. So I know Janita's here. Welcome and thanks for joining. New developer at Blink Labs. And we were talking to Chris and Mix about creating a space where people can learn Cardano Go development together. And those sessions will launch tomorrow. There's a lot of good reasons to learn Go. And if you're interested in understanding some of them, I do encourage you to stop by. Those sessions will be facilitated by Professor Mix, who's got a boatload of experience exploring all of the existing libraries. And he's just a joy to listen to and learn from. So I hope if you're interested in that stuff, you'll join us. Once again, that's Wednesdays at 14:30 UTC. Then the other new meeting is after open spaces on Thursdays. We're going to start running a quick dev stand up. And the idea here is anybody who's been working on a technical project at Gimbal Labs or has questions or support you need, you can drop by after open spaces or stick around if you want to. It's the same meeting link, and we'll do a quick stand up there. Sometimes that meeting will be very quick, people just sharing quick updates, making connections with each other. But if there's ever something deeper that we need to spend some time diving into, Mix and I are committed to being there to help people during that time. Adrian's here too, can lend some support. Um, and if anybody else is interested in just, yeah, giving and getting feedback, I'm really excited about that one. So that Gimbal Labs tech stand up will be Thursdays at 1600 UTC. All of the meetings I've just named are on the calendar at gimbalabs.com/calendar. And we record these meetings and we'll be uploading all of them to YouTube. Any questions about the upcoming calls? All right. So we're at an exciting inflection point here in Aiken PBL. We've delivered the initial course. And anybody who's been attending, you've seen lectures from Hinson and from me about the course material. And now we have this public resource that anybody can use to start learning. But what we recognize is that even when there is a course online that you can work through on your own, you can watch the videos fine. It can be nice to have an open space to ask questions and get help. And that's the number one goal of this session moving forward. When we get together on Tuesdays at 12:30 UTC for this Aiken PBL session, everybody who attends gets to set the agenda. So right before we went live, I asked if anybody had questions. Andrew has one to get us started today. So that's what we'll start with. Um, and I know you've been working on the Asteria project. So, Andrew, maybe if you want to share screen and give us a little bit of context about what you're working on, and then drive into the question, then we'll be able to look at that together.
Yeah, okay. I will share screen. Okay, can we see?
Looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what I have open here, this is actually a validator from the TX Pipe team, and this is to do with the Asteria project. And what we have here is an Asteria.ak validator written in Aiken. They actually have four. We're in the process of trying to build a front end for Asteria, but in order to do that, we want to be in a situation where we can recreate our own version of the game. So in order to do that, we're having to redeploy the validators. That's kind of another thing, and also just understand the validators as they are. So looking at this one, we have the parameters, which I'm okay with, and then you have a spend validator here, which I guess is another way to look at it is actually a locking script, I think. I'm okay with the datum, I'm okay with the redeemer, and I'm okay with the transaction. Where I struggle to understand is this one, the UTXO and an output reference. I understand what a UTXO is, obviously, but um, my opinion, my thought process was always that the UTXOs were stored within the transaction. So I'm a bit unsure as to which UTXO this is referencing. And maybe also from an off-chain perspective, how this is sent to the validator, if it's sent in any different way.
It's so exciting. It's such a good question. And even for folks here who are not here to be full-time smart contract developers. All right. So for example, if you're learning Go right now and just getting your mind around how Cardano works, Andrew's question is so important. So what I heard you say is that the UTXO is stored in the transaction, right?
Oh, well, yeah, it was always my understanding that UTXOs come to the validator via the transaction.
Exactly, right? And they are. And that's the interaction, right? But I want to the one thing I want to update there is this concept of storing a UTXO, okay? Most of the time, transactions are not happening, right?
Okay.
And this is off chain too. Most of the time, I'm not spending money. I might have some money in my pocket, right? But it's just stored energy that I'm waiting eventually for a transaction to go spend, right? And you can think of my pocket as the validator, right? It's just waiting there. And so when you said that you like to think of a spending validator as a locking script, that's exactly right, right? Hey, when somebody gives me a $5 bill, I'm going to put it in my pocket. Okay, now that $5 bill is locked in my pocket until I decide to spend it, right? And with a validator, it's the same idea. You're going to send a UTXO to that validator address where it's going to be locked and waiting until somebody comes along and tries to spend it. So far, so good on that,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Now, what's different about a validator from my pocket is that when it's my pocket or even my own Cardano wallet, I'm the sole party responsible for deciding if those funds can be spent, right? I can take a $5 bill out of my own pocket anytime for any reason. And if I have my Cardano wallet, I could spend 5 ADA from my own wallet anytime for any reason. But validators are unique. It's not about one party deciding, hey, I want to spend this right now. It's about one or more parties, right? In this case, it is still just one person who's going to trigger this transaction. But when they do, they have to meet certain conditions in order to spend that UTXO. In other words, there's going to be a UTXO stored at this asteria.spend address that's going to be waiting for somebody to come along and try to unlock it. So far, so good on that,
okay, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay, so the action I take to unlock that UTXO, that's the transaction,
yeah,
right? And a transaction can have many inputs and many outputs,
yeah, yeah,
right? One of those inputs is particularly important to us. It's the input that we are trying to unlock from this validator address. And
Okay.
what are we distinguishing that from? Well, if I'm making a transaction, it's likely that there will also be an input from my wallet because I got to pay the fees for this transaction, right? So already, even in a simple case, you can imagine a transaction that has two inputs and two outputs. One input from my wallet that I'll sign for, another input from this validator, and then two outputs. Maybe I get some of the change back from that transaction, and this token is relocked back in the validator with new datum, or it's moved to another address, right? There's all sorts of places that outputs can go. Many inputs, many outputs. And in this example on line 15, I noticed that this validator requires an admin token. So it's likely there's going to be another input for that, right? I consume the admin token UTXO from my own wallet, and then I get the admin token back. That's what allows role-based access control through a validator, right? Now, I'm saying all of this just to kind of like set that context, right? We have this transaction. It has many inputs, it has many outputs, but one of those inputs is more important, more relevant to this situation than the others. It's the UTXO that we are unlocking from the validator. And that's what we are talking about on line 22,
Okay.
right? This asteria.spend address has a bunch of UTXOs locked in it. Anytime I want to unlock any of them, these are the rules for doing so. And when I do try to unlock one, and as you can see right here, it can only be one, right? I can only spend one UTXO at a time. Now, it's possible to try to spend multiple UTXOs from a validator address, but if you do, you'll have to validate independently for each of them.
Okay.
And that's why this validator references a single UTXO on line 22. This is the UTXO we are trying to spend.
Right. Okay. I think I'm with you there. I think if I'm considering it from a Cardano CLI point of view, where we've done scripts, um, I do remember when you're trying to interact with a smart contract, it's a case of you take a UTXO that's already at the validator address, and that's what you put in your transaction. And I think that's what this is because from the top of my head, the Asteria um, validator address only ever has one UTXO, and it's replaced every time someone makes a transaction to it.
There you go. Right on. So this one, you're ahead of me in understanding what the Asteria validator actually does. What are the redeemer endpoints for this starting on line 30? You can add a new ship.
Yeah,
What else can you do?
and then mine Asteria, sort of like the end goal,
Hmm.
and then not entirely what consume Asteria is. I'm not onto that one yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got those three.
Those are the three actions that this
Yeah.
transaction can take. Yep. Beautiful.
Okay.
Do you have do you have like easy access to a Cardano CLI example that we can look at together just to illustrate the point you just made?
I might be able to put it on the. Hang on a minute. Uh, I could get it from the PBL course. Just hold on a moment.
Yeah, Erez, what's your question as Andrew's grabbing that?
Yeah, hey James, that was a great explanation. I'm just thinking with the output reference, um, it's actually like displayed as a byte string, and then like the actual UTXO with the byte string, and then the the index, like that's how you would include it in
Exactly,
the smart
exactly,
contract.
right?
Yeah.
But and basically that output reference, the byte string you're talking about, the transaction hash, right?
Yeah.
And the index, that is the unique identifier for any unspent UTXO, for any UTXO on the blockchain. We can reference every single one of them uniquely by the transaction hash and index, right? And where does that transaction hash, that byte string come from? Oh, that's the identifier for the transaction that created those outputs in the first place. So that transaction hash is actually serving two purposes at the same time. First of all, every transaction that's ever happened on Cardano has a unique transaction hash. That's a good thing. We want to be able to go back in time on the blockchain and review any transaction that's ever happened. That's the value prop of blockchain, right? But the other purpose that hash is serving is it's allowing us to uniquely identify any outputs from that transaction. And that's why we need the index, because most transactions have multiple outputs. And that's why you'll have index 0, 1, 2, 3, right? These are the four UTXOs that were created in this transaction and that are now spendable in a future transaction. And hopefully, the way I'm explaining this right now, my goal is just to help make sense of these words output reference, right?
Uh,
Anything I could ever spend on Cardano was an output from some earlier transaction. And you could make a massive family tree that goes back to the first transaction that ever happened on Cardano when the whole thing was turned on. All of the ADA, all of the UTXOs we have can be traced back in time to when, where the blockchain started. Andrew, did you find something?
I have, yeah. Sorry, I only shared one window. I just need to change that. Do I need to stop share and then redo it? So
Maybe it might let you change, but yeah, either way.
let's try.
James, I had another question also. You said that
Yep.
an individual needs to unlock the UTXO at the validator contract, but if you have, can you do like a multi-sig validator also where you need several different people to unlock that same UTXO, or would it be that they all have to unlock
Oh,
different
absolutely.
UTXOs?
Yeah, yeah, you can write a validator that requires multiple signatures.
Okay. And then
Right.
once they all um, uh, I guess approve then of the transaction, then the UTXO would be spent.
Right. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a great example right here. Andrew, thanks for pulling this one up, right? And so this is, if you're familiar with this one, this is the getting tokens from the faucet transaction. But it doesn't really matter what this does because this pattern is very common. Anytime you write a validator to work on chain, you need to build transactions like this to actually interact with it. And you can see in this transaction right here, how many inputs do you see? I see TX in 1, 2, 3 times, right? Now the first two TX ins, fees and PPBL 2024, those are just coming from the user's wallet. And these are actually the two that I just named as we were looking at the Asteria spending validator, right? Why do I need UTXOs from my wallet? Well, I need one to pay the fees. That's TXN fees. And I need another one that has my admin token. In this case, it's not an admin token, it's just the PPBL 2024 token, but the role is the same. Anybody who has that token is going to be able to satisfy the conditions of this validator. And anybody who doesn't have that token will not be able to participate. But then the third TXN, where it says TXN faucet validator TXN, right? This one is different. And it's different because look at the four lines that it's followed by, right? If I'm just spending a UTXO from my wallet, I can just specify the TXN and I will sign for that in step two. All right. When I sign the transaction, I validate that I'm allowed to spend those first two UTXOs. But this third one, Andrew, can you highlight just those five lines all at once?
Elons?
That whole block. Yeah. This is a package deal right here. Okay. If I ever want to spend a UTXO from a validator address, there's a couple more things I have to specify. So what do we specify? Well, first we have, it says spending TXN reference. That's the reference UTXO, right? That actually has the validator script CBOR on chain. So that's giving us the rules of unlocking this thing. Then we specify what type of script it is. In the case on the screen right here, it's a Plutus v2 script. In the case of the Asteria validator we were just looking at, that's going to compile to Plutus v3, right? So you would have to specify Plutus script v3 right here. And there's, in the future there will be other things, right? You could go back in time and specify v1 if you have a compelling reason. I don't think there's any good reason to use v1 at this point, but you have that ability, right? And this is important because we always want backwards compatibility, right? Even if I'm not writing in Plutus v1 right now, I might have written a validator a couple years ago in v1, and it's still useful to me. So that's a case where it would be useful.
How do you know which validator, which version the validator is?
It's up to you to track that, right? So if you wrote it, of course you're going to know. If you didn't write it, it's up to you to go ask whoever wrote it.
There's no way to include that as a comment or something.
It is a field in like that dot Plutus format that Plutus TX compiles to automatically, or that you can use that Aiken blueprint convert command to create. But it people don't always choose to include it there, right? So yeah, Adrian, is there like a tag that you can read directly from the CBOR?
I think if you build the transaction with CLI, you get an error saying you're in the wrong version.
There you go. You could just trial and error. You have three options right now. So that's another
And
option.
I'm not sure if one of the indexers is showing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So then we say there's a few ways to handle datum. In this case, the datum is just directly on chain as inline datum. If you're interested in other approaches to datum, we can talk about that in the future. But for now, just pointing out spending reference TX in inline datum present. That means that we have legible datum in this UTXO, and we're just telling this transaction, hey, use the datum that's there. And finally, the redeemer, the statement of intent. We just saw when Andrew was sharing the validator code that there are three redeemer values possible. Oh, I forget what they are already. You can mine Asteria, add a ship, whatever they are, right? But this is the line that you would use to specify that redeemer value, spending reference TX in redeemer file. Any questions about this step right here?
I think I'm pretty clear with it there, actually. That's helped me a lot because I do on this lesson that's on the screen. If you go further down, you actually shows you how to query the address of the validator, and then you can take the UTXO that you need, um, and then put it in
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
as an argument.
And this also is going to help make sense of that term reference output that we see in the Aiken code. Do you mind, Andrew, opening up the Aiken docs in a browser tab?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, if we can go like to the Aiken Lang website and
Sorry. Right. Okay.
oh good.
Let me just.
Yeah, that I want to just understand the type signature for that output reference that we're seeing in the validator itself.
Is that standard library?
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you mind sharing that?
On the screen. Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah,
It's coming
got it.
now. Right. And we are looking for
You could just search for it, right? Output reference.
output reference. There we go.
Right. And so this shouldn't be too much of a surprise here. What's an output reference? Oh, it's just the transaction ID and the output index, right? That's if you go back to the robbing the bank tab, right? The lesson itself. Oh, sorry, back in the browser still, just the Cardano CLI transaction we were just looking at. Yeah, right. On that last highlighted line, no, sorry, on the top highlighted line, faucet validator TX in. This is just a bash variable, right? But what is the value of that variable? Oh, it's the transaction hash and then the hashtag and then the output index. That's exactly what an output reference is, right? So hopefully you can recognize that in the Aiken documentation, the definition of output reference is exactly the thing we are specifying when we specify the faucet validator TX in. How's that feel to everybody?
Yeah, that's helps me a lot, that, to be honest. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Could you also say it as like that's the output reference UTXO?
It is. That's what it is. Yes.
Okay.
And that's why back in VS Code, what name are we giving this output reference? We're calling it UTXO. Look at that, line 22. Its type is output reference, but what is it? It's the UTXO that we are spending in this validator.
Yeah, and a little bit further down here, it's asking you to go through the inputs of the transaction to find that UTXO. Is that just to double check that it's definitely there?
Yeah, this is just a nice guard. Hinson, what would you want to share about line 28?
Yeah, this is the you mean 28?
Yeah, just like this line 28 is really not explicitly necessary, but it's a nice guard to add. Am I saying that right?
Actually, I don't think they start anything. It's just getting the own UTXO
Yeah,
for processing because
right.
it's not really pattern matching the lane for yeah or so.
Yeah,
Just if you do a spending validators, you could always get its own UTXO.
right. So we could safely delete line 28 And instead of referencing Asteria input down below, we could just reference the UTXO.
Um, it's not exactly the same because you're using the output reference to find the input information. So without this line, you cannot get the input value and input datum.
That's
Yeah.
what it is. Okay, right. This is what's okay. So we have this whole list of inputs, which have not just the output reference, but all of the information in the UTXO. Its tokens,
Yep. Yep.
its Lovelace, its datum, etc. Right. Okay. And if we want to be able to inspect the UTXO, we need to find the whole thing. So we say, okay, we know that one of these inputs by definition has to be this UTXO. Otherwise, there's no point in proceeding. But as long as we have that, let's call that Asteria input. And yeah, down below, like line 35, you can see how Asteria input is used. Just one case.
I get it. That makes sense now.
Okay, so line 28 is necessary because we want to actually look at the contents of the UTXO we are unlocking.
Yeah,
Very
because
nice.
the UTXO on its own is just, well, a reference to it. It's just a transaction hash with an index.
Right, which doesn't, yeah, that doesn't tell
Yeah,
us much. But if we
yeah,
want to actually execute on some business logic, we want to look at the whole thing.
brilliant. Okay,
And
thank you
and
for that.
just to really look at that point for an extra moment, can you go back to the Aiken docs? And this is one of the key points in the course. Let's look at input. You can see over on the left-hand navigation. Oh, yeah, it's just scrolling up, right? Look, okay, so what's an input, right? An input is an output reference and an output. What's an output? This is right underneath, right? The output, this is that information that Hinson was just talking about, right? This is all of the actionable data. What was the address from which we are unlocking this UTXO, right? In other words, when I made this output, it was sent to an address, wasn't it? So that's the address that it's going to be unlocked from next time it's used. If you can do those mental gymnastics, right? What's the value in this UTXO? What's the datum, if any? And is there optionally, you can see, is there a reference script, right? So that's an output. Every transaction creates outputs that look like this. And why don't these outputs yet have output references? Well, because they are not yet on chain in a transaction. I can construct an output for a transaction before signing and submitting that transaction so that it's actually on chain. That's why the output type is going to look like this. But then after it is on chain, what's the next thing I might want to do with that output? Ah, use it as an input to another transaction. So when you scroll up again, that's why you see that an input is just an output with a reference to it so that we can make it the input to the next transaction. It's one of those things that like once you have this picture in your head, it's like easier to think about than to talk about. I'm like stumbling over my words because I want to try to get it right. But how is this making sense to folks or who has questions about this? This is a really important idea.
Yeah, hi everyone. So the thing is if we should be getting deep dive into the the output and the input I would say maybe we might be getting somehow out of Aiken to the off-chain side, which I got into some of the real visual representation of it off-chain yesterday. Maybe some maybe I don't maybe 15 minutes to the end of this section. Um, I'm open to share that, and I also have questions too on it. I don't know.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that Andrew's question would lead to somebody else's next question. Would it be okay if we transitioned over to what Emmanuel's working on?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing that. Yeah.
Amazing. Andrew, thanks. And yeah, keep us
Well, thank
posted.
you.
It'll be fun to go back to that a week from now and see if it still feels good.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's really helped.
And while Emmanuel, are you able to share screen today? Um,
Yeah, I would just in a moment when I get on the file, I would.
take your time. Yep, take your time.
Yeah.
And Eris, while he's getting set up, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm still a bit confused about what you were just talking about. And I think for me, it would help if we could actually do like some kind of transaction together where we can actually see what would be what are the inputs there and then what are the outcomes after so we can like more visualize it.
I love it. Yeah, let's see if when Emmanuel talks about off-chain code, that's really the idea, right? So on-chain code, you're writing the rules for how UTXOs can be spent, but you're not actually doing anything, right? And that's why I think in this case, the word contract is really good, right? If you just think about law, a contract is just a piece of paper that sits there dormant until somebody tries to enforce it, right? And it's the action of enforcement where a contract shows its power. And it's the same kind of thing here, right? We write a validator with rules, but those rules don't do anything until somebody tries to build a transaction in accordance with those rules. And that's the off-chain part, right? So when it comes to whenever you hear somebody say off-chain, another way to describe that is just to say transaction building, right? How do I use these validators? Oh, I have to build valid transactions. And that's the main thing we are talking about when we talk about off-chain code. Yeah, that's going to help it make a lot more sense.
Yeah. I don't know if it's right to share screen.
Give it a try. And yeah, if you don't have the bandwidth for whatever reason, you can send me a link and I'm happy to share screen and you can just talk us through it. But let's try it on your end first.
Yeah, let me try.
In the meantime, okay, man.
Hey,
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. After you're done, I have a question. So I was just, yeah.
Yeah. You guys should not mind my seat phrase. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
this one is
Don't
really.
just
Yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
we're on pre-prod, but don't ever do that.
Yeah. What I got yesterday was I was trying to get the UTXO from the transaction hash of the deployed validator, which was gotten from I don't want to I think this is going to off-chain, but let me just show um what we have in the UTXO. Um
And while this is starting up, so for Janita, for example, right, we're looking at TypeScript off-chain code right now, but a lot of the patterns we're going to look at here are going to repeat just in Go libraries. When we talk about the Go stuff, we're not talking about writing on-chain code. We're just talking about all of the off-chain orchestration.
yeah,
Sure, sure, James. Yeah.
yeah, so here is it. So I was supposed to get this is the inputs at index of 0 with the transaction hash, which is also having output. And I think this is also referencing to what Andrew was trying to ask.
There you go. That's
My
exactly right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So which is also having the
And Emmanuel, can we just pause right there? This, if you scroll up, right, can you just highlight that input, those first four lines, right? That's the output reference. So for anybody who needs to really see this, right? This is what we're talking about when we talk about output reference, right there. TX hash and output index. Okay. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt. Keep going.
Emmanuel, can you
Yeah.
please go up a little? I didn't see what the command was that you put to get this.
It was find the UTXO of a hash of the um transaction hash of a deployed validator. So yeah, so and it's also having another input session here. I don't know what this also means. Um,
Are these both at the same address? So I see this address ends in 7Q4T. And if you scroll up, what's the address on the other UTXO?
this is just a short address.
Different one. Yeah, okay. And the reason this one's shorter is that it doesn't have staking credentials associated with it. Can you show us? So to Erez's question, this is the result of just a short TypeScript script that you wrote, right?
Yeah, sure, yes.
Can you show us the TypeScript code that's running to create this?
Yeah, this is basically it.
This is it.
Yeah, so the thing was how did I get so yeah, this was where the I got the transaction hash from, which the datum was passed in as Asteria parameter, which is the symbol format of Asteria validator, sorry.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and we logged in some Lovelace to the deployed script address, and that was how we were able to get the hash of we're now querying the UTXO of the validator of space-time. I think this is yeah, this is the real transaction here.
And what's being logged though? Because these are transactions that you can build. But when you showed us your terminal, all it was doing was it was just printing two UTXOs. Where are those coming from?
I used block frost provider to fetch the UTXO from the transaction hash.
Oh, there it is. And you're fetching
Yeah,
it from that's a that oh, okay. That's a transaction hash.
yes,
Got
with
it. Okay.
testnet network.
Can you jump back to the terminal for just a second? So 640E. Okay, so this, where is that though? Because look, both of these have the transaction hash 38FBE, right? And you've got
Yeah.
index 0 here, and down below it's the same transaction hash and index 1. Where is that transaction hash coming from?
I don't even know. Um,
Let's try to find it. Yeah, so
oh,
you
okay. Okay, um, wait, I'm not really sure. Um, I think this should be for the Asteria Earth.
B5. Show us the terminal again. What's the hash we're looking for?
Okay, that's true. 38.
38FB. Um, so yeah, is that a parameter? And the other thing we can do here, if you scroll to the top of your terminal for just a second, you ran the command just npm start, and that's running dist index.js. So yeah, go to your package JSON file for a sec. It's just the index.js. Yeah, perfect. That's it. And so show us that file. Where's the index? And we could start there. That's fine. Here it is. Console log
Yeah.
pellet ref. I'm assuming then
Okay.
pellet ref. And there was
Yeah.
a path. What, can you show us the last file again? The index.
Yeah, this is the pellet
This is,
ref.
oh, there it is, 38 FBE. Okay, okay, got it. Got it. Okay, so that's what's logging there. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. I just wanted to get my head around where we are.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just getting, yeah, this is exactly what is logging. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, exactly. And then it's
Yeah.
exporting pellet ref on line 27, and that's what you're logging from index.js.
Yes, yes.
Okay. 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 All right. So that helps us. Now we're kind of on the same page. Can you go back and ask the original question again?
Yeah, one of my questions is why is the script ref given undefined? Because on this Asteria project in the real file where it was all of the transactions were built exactly in the same way, and they found the script ref, and I did the same way, and I'm getting undefined.
See, I see. And so we don't have a script ref, but the CBOR that's just above that, what's that called?
Total data.
Plutus data. Okay. Okay. Do me a favor. Let's grab the transaction hash and copy it. Do the transaction hash, the 38FB.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, copy that string and let's bring that over to preprod.cardanoscan.io. And let's take a look.
Yeah, network.
Thanks. All good. Cool. So here's a transaction from a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
And we can look at the UTXOs for this transaction. And we can see, right? Andrew showed us on Cardano CLI what it looks like to have inputs and outputs. Here's what it looks like on Cardano Scan. And no surprise, right? There was only one input. It was from your wallet where you were deploying this script from. And the second output went to your wallet, 5.715 ADA. And can you leave this on the screen and just jump back to your terminal again, just so we can see this together, right? The second output in your terminal, we can see that it does indeed, it goes to this address ending in 7Q4T, just like what we see on Cardano Scan. And it doesn't have any of the extra stuff. It doesn't have a data hash. It doesn't have Plutus data. It doesn't have a script ref. Yeah, that's just a plain UTXO that goes to your wallet, right?
Okay.
So that's great. Now the first one, which and if you go back to Cardano Scan, the address we see on the first output is this one that ends in QYCAP. Yeah, that's the address that we can see in your terminal on the first UTXO. You see it?
Yeah. So how is it getting how why are we not getting the script ref?
Okay. So that's where I'm just trying to help everybody else make sure
Yeah,
they're with us, right? Okay, so
yeah.
now finally let's go back to Cardano Scan. And this is a special UTXO. You can see that it has a couple of badges on it. Look at the one that's on the left-hand side of the address string, right? In between the copy icon and the address itself. Mouse over that one. Just move your mouse to the left. Yeah, this one's okay. So it tells us this is a smart contract address. That's very nice. That's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then yeah, that other one, the 0100 at the right-hand side of this address. What's that one? Just move your mouse all the way to the right after the QYCAP. This little
Okay.
icon, this guy. What is that?
It's not giving us anything.
Can you click on it? All right.
Okay.
Look. This is not a reference script. It's datum. Okay. Let's go inspect that data. And you can click the link to open up a new tab. And Cardano Scan has this convenient tool that's going to decode this datum for us. Let's see what it looks like. All right. And that decoded datum, that actually looks like the CBOR string that we might want for a contract. So I'm not sure. I don't, maybe you have the script you used or the transaction you built to get to this point, but it looks to me like maybe the script you were trying to deploy was accidentally included as datum.
I'm pretty sure that's a CBOR.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How that's how what's it called? That's how it was created, right? That let's spell it. That's how I
Okay.
just had to like yeah, you would see it was included as datum, which is this is the parameter of this is the hash of the deployed scripts we were
Very
just looking at.
nice. Yeah,
So
yes. Right.
yeah, we pass this in as the datum, the script itself
Yes.
in simple format.
Now, Adrian can speak to this, right? Is there ever a scenario where you might want to include a reference script in datum instead of as a reference script itself?
I cannot think of one, at least not where the parameters are already applied.
Okay. Right. So here's a case where it's probably a simple fix here on lines 35 through 42. Instead of sending applied pellet param to the datum, we want to send it as the reference output.
Okay.
Do you have any other TypeScript files that were behaving the way you wanted them to? Can we compare? Like Asteria.
Yeah, sure. I will show you the real Asteria file. Yeah.
Excellent.
And you see they did exactly, almost exactly like this. So you see, I don't know if it's making sense like this. In line that
Yeah. Totally. And here we're using Lucid instead, right? So that
yeah, yeah.
the precise syntax is a little bit different, but you can see they put the pellet validator in a script ref. That's where we want it. It's not datum, it's the reference
Oh,
script.
all right, yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's actually it's
Okay,
nice.
yeah,
This error is you can see very clearly the story here, right?
yeah, yeah,
And you can check, you can either use the built-in TypeScript autocomplete that Mesh is going to provide, or you can look directly at the Mesh docs to see how you need to change your example.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can
Yes.
we take can we take a quick look at the mesh documentation together to see if we can find this? So we're looking at tx.send_assets, right? And so if you jump to the SDK.
Oh, hi.
Hey, Robin, what's up?
Oh, sorry. I have two meetings going on right now. I'm sorry. I need to drop here. Sorry.
No, it's
See you
okay.
next time.
See you next time. Emmanuel, just use the menu navigation at the top. Let's go to SDK.
Okay.
And then let's go to transactions. And let's just take a quick look. It should be transaction basics, actually. And we want to go send assets. Yeah.
Send assets, right?
That's the one, right? Can we confirm? And so this guy, this is
Okay, yeah.
just, can you go back to your source code for just a second? It was set tx.send_assets, yeah? Send assets, yep, has address. This simple documentation, yeah, what is this? That's better. That might be better. So it takes a recipient and it takes assets. It's actually the recipient type that we want to look at. Right.
Yeah.
So the recipient type here, it can have datum in it, but can we find more about that? Hinson, is there a recommended documentation? Because, right, the basic docs don't show us everything about.
Yeah, sure.
Which one you mean?
I want to show Emmanuel where he can find all of the details about send assets on line 35 in the docs. We have recipient. We can see that recipient is a field in send assets, but we want to look at the whole recipient type.
Yep. Actually, normally I would always suggest to use TS Builder
Oh,
because
that's a good point as well, right? And that might be
mesh transaction classes kind of right now in the framework is a little bit legacy-ish. Since a few years ago, the design pattern, me and Jingles has always wanted to refactor the whole thing. And the TS Builder is a relatively less opinionated way to build transaction right now. So yeah, probably it's easier to use. Frankly, I seldom use the transaction class also. But if you want to check everything about the types, the website documentation tells most of the thing you have to know. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And that's a really good point. Emmanuel, can you go back to the mesh docs? And so when you tapped SDK a moment ago, I asked you to click on transactions, but you can see transaction builder that Hinson was just talking about above it.
Yeah.
And it is, I share Hinson's a builder of this library, right? So he's going to have a strong opinion. I also think of transactions as the legacy object that we can use here. And for everybody on the Hysteria team, I would recommend using Transaction Builder instead. Let's take a look at that. Now, the main reason, and there's a lot of things that are optimized about Transaction Builder, but when Hinson started to design this, you can speak for this, right? You were really trying to make it as similar as possible to Cardano CLI, right?
Yep.
Right. And so what you're going to find here is that a lot of what's available on Cardano CLI is going to be available here. Now, the initialization part, that's going to be unique to Mesh, and we can come back to this later, right? But if we start scrolling down through send value, multi-sig, build with object, all of these details, what you're going to see in the examples is that we can map these one-to-one to different Cardano CLI functionality. Just scroll down through here. Let's see what we can find. Yeah, send value. All right. Notice what do we have right here? Oh, it .tx out. That's just like on Cardano CLI, the dash dash tx dash out tag. Okay. Now, what does a tx out have? Well, at minimum, it's going to have the address where you're sending it to and the list of assets that are being sent. But are there other things we could include in an output?
I guess that, please.
Yep.
Okay. I thought I lost it.
Just thinking.
Mm.
What are you thinking?
I think what of I don't know in is here, but I was thinking what of if I should check okay the transaction builder, okay, the datum can only take the data and okay,
If
yeah,
if we want to, I mean, so first of all, one takeaway, Harsha, Andrew, Emmanuel, is if you're starting to build transactions this way with the legacy transaction object, try to move to, like Hinson suggested, the new transaction builder. And that's a really good
okay,
step for us. And that's something I would be happy to stick around and look at together after open spaces when we do our first tech stand up this Thursday. That we could workshop that and try a few examples. Okay. But in the meantime, let's just see, recognizing that we are using a legacy approach. If you want to jump back to VS Code, there is something we can try. Right? So make a new line in between lines 40 and 41. And if you just start typing like S or R, does it give us anything?
okay, yeah,
Yeah. Let's see what the autocomplete suggests. S script. No. R reference. No. Try
so script ref from script ref,
that. Well, that's just going to be a function that processes data. What we want is we want to add a ref. Just start instead of script, type ref and see if that gives us anything. I forget what it's called. Yeah, just delete that line 42 and start typing new. Try ref. Oh, sorry. No, yeah, delete that. Sorry. Delete line 42 and only type ref.
sorry, what did you say?
Try typing ref.
Okay,
Does that give
okay,
us? No. Yeah, I can't remember. And is it inside? I'm just trying to remember the documentation off the top of my head. That's not it. Um,
yeah,
Maybe is it inside the recipient? Okay, so now delete lines 41 through 43. Let's try something different. At the end of line 39, outside of the curly bracket, right? This is the end of the datum. Put a comma after line 39. There we go. And on the next line now, type ref here. Does this give us anything? Script ref. Yeah, that's what we would want, right? Script ref. That might be it. Script ref. And that, can you do colon applied? No, script ref doesn't exist. No, that's not it. Value. Yeah. All right. So obviously, there's just some documentation review that any of us would have to do if we wanted to go
Yeah.
this approach. But what I would really recommend is before you learn anything else about this deprecated system, let's make the transition over to Transaction Builder. And when we do,
Oh,
then you'll be able to see. But you understand your goal at this point, right? Is to build this transaction such that applied pellet param is not deployed as datum, but instead as a reference script. Harsha, Andrew, does that task make sense as a next thing to explore?
Yeah, I'm obviously I'm on the same thing as Emmanuel, but I am using Transaction Builder. I think I'm doing something slightly different, and it's a bit in early stages, so I wouldn't want to share it. But yeah, I have been
Totally. Yeah.
using TX Builder and getting my head around that.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a great spot to be on this right now. That's wonderful. Harsha, what do you think?
So I have a slightly different question. So I've been using CLI to to deploy the reference script, but I have the UTXO transaction hash.
Mhm.
But how do we know that that specific UTXO actually contains the reference script? Because I don't see anything on the pre-prod Cardano scan.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Do you mind sharing screen? Emmanuel, can we hand it off to Harsha?
yeah, sure. Thanks, James. Thanks, guys.
Hey, yo, thanks for leading. That's brilliant. So yeah, and Harsha, my preference is to deploy reference scripts using Cardano CLI. For me, the reason that you would build a front end for that is if you're dynamically creating new ones very quickly, and sure, we might want to be able to apply parameters that way. So go for it. But personally, I would rather do what Harsha's trying to do, apply my parameters, deploy a script once. So just recognize that both of those are your options. Okay, so now you said you deployed something. It had,
Yeah, I deployed two of them, but I'm not sure if they actually contain the script CBOR.
right.
And I don't see anything, so I
I
just wanted to
agree.
make sure.
I don't see anything either. We should see a little icon, just similar to what we saw on, sorry,
Mhm.
similar to what
But
we saw on Emmanuel's screen.
but with Emmanuel's thing, the output address that showed that script was the validator address. This is just like a random address I created
That's right.
to put the okay, yeah.
That's right. But we should still see the reference script in it. Do you have another one that might have a reference script that we could just
So
check?
I thought I put all of them. I don't see the refresh script on any of them for some reason. I can actually show you the transaction as well. One second. It- it- yeah. Should I open the transaction? Can you guys hear me?
Hey, sorry, there's some drama outside my window.
Oh, okay.
Um, this one, okay. Sorry, say it again. I got distracted.
So it's the same thing. I don't see the script here. And this is the address that I was storing the reference script UTXOs in. And this is these are the variables. I was following this lesson,
Yes. Okay, so
which is, yeah,
I'm not sure. Okay, but I'm glad you have Cardano CLI open. Can we look at that together for just a second? Because
absolutely, yeah.
you queried this address just a moment ago, it looks like, right?
The address where I stored the UTXO.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Can we query that one?
Yeah, 1 second.
All right. And yeah, that first one, 957, that's the one in question, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So now run that same query command, but before you press enter, we're going to add one thing to the end of it. Do the greater than symbol.
So after testnet magic.
Yeah, after testnet magic one, space, that little arrow or greater than symbol. Yeah. And then just call this like out.txt or something.
I don't think that will work. I think you need to add it as tag.
Oh, is it? Is it dash dash out file? Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay. Thanks.
And then just the name.
It's going to be dash dash out dash file. Yeah, not just out.
Or
Right. We need the command to save everything, right? We're not just saving the raw result. Thanks, Adrian. Okay, yeah, try that. Now it's not going to print anything to the screen because it just created a new file called out.txt. And maybe you have to refresh your side browser if that's not showing up there. But you're in script
this.
UTXO
Well,
addresses.
you're just typing cat
Yeah,
out.tx.
exactly. That's what I would recommend. From right here, yeah, cat out.txt. And this is going to show you more details about these UTXOs. And here you see the good news, right? Look, this UTXO, yes, it does have a reference script, and you can see the CBOR hex right there. That leaves the mystery. I always thought that this would show up on Cardano scan. I don't know if something changed there. So we can't confirm it that way, but this is an easy way to confirm that yes, you did successfully deploy two Plutus v3 reference scripts.
And to the earlier questions, we then also know the version of the Bluetooth script.
What was that? The earlier question, what?
Earlier we had the question if you can see what Bluetooth version a SIBO is. And
Yeah. Oh, I meant in pre-prod scan, I thought we'd see a similar CBOR script symbol here, but
yeah, normally you should see it. Don't know why you don't see it.
huh. Should I be worried? Should I actually go through the process of what
Well,
I did? Or
this result shows that we're good. Adrian, can you say again what you were looking at?
No, we earlier there was the question if you can see what Bluetooth version a SIBO is.
Oh,
And
that was the question, yeah.
it-
And there it is. Right. Right. Beautiful.
you can try Check Explorer. Maybe there you see the attached reference script. Normally you have more information there. than on Cardano scan.
Which site is that?
Explorer. It's in there to find it this way. Now you need to scroll down a little bit, and there's some pre-prod button. No, on the right side. Here you have networks.
Where are you saying
Left,
network?
little bit
Left.
the
Oh,
left
left of the
bottom.
screen.
Yeah, there you have mainnet, pre-prod, and preview.
Oh, right here. Okay. Do I search here?
Top left.
Left. Oh, this one.
No,
Oh.
yeah, maybe you can find it there also. No, then you need to go on the top left. It's
Okay.
directly.
Oh, right, this guy. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a script here.
Yeah, then here.
Hi, I have a question. I'm wondering, is there a way to like from the let's see, from the validator address in these explorers, is there a way to actually go to the validator to see the code? And if not, I think that would be a cool feature that could be added to the Explorer. Any thoughts about that, or does anyone know if
I
there's a
have
way
no
to do
idea,
that?
but we can try that. Maybe Harsha, if you have the address for that, then let's just search for the address. Maybe there is that option.
Okay, just the address for this, the original address to which I sent the UTXO.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it. 1 second.
But what I meant is, Adrian, like you know how next to the address you have like that little logo with that shows that it's a smart contract, or the other one that shows like more
I
data.
think
It
normally
would,
it shows you that it is a script address. At least it should.
but then it would be cool to be able to actually click on a button or something that would link to the actual validator if one wants to see. Is something like that possible to do, or that could be a cool feature?
It's not always possible. Or no, it should be possible, but don't know if there exists something like that.
Because from
Maybe
my
we
understanding,
can now go on UTXO.
UTXO.
is every validator, is it open to the public, or are there private validators also?
No, they are not really private validators, but it's not that easy to get the actual logic from the CBOR. But you cannot really have private validators because you always need to provide the CBOR if you want to unlock it. either through the reference script or as a normal without reference.
Okay, thanks.
As the nodes have to validate that you are allowed to unlock, and therefore they need the CBOR or the logic of the validator.
Mhm. So unfortunately, we're at time, but thank you. To everybody for leading today, starting with Andrew's question, jump into Emmanuel, jump into Harsha. This is the dream for this session. So thank you guys for jumping in and leading the way. And ideally, this is the shape of these sessions moving forward. Now, I know that over the next few weeks, if people don't have questions, Hinson has ready for us a series of lectures about good ideas and bad ideas for Cardano developers. And those are going to be a really fun series of lectures to jump into. But Hinson, is this okay with you if we continue to start with Q&A? And then whenever there
Yep.
aren't questions to answer, we jump into that lecture series?
Yep. Actually, for what I prepared is just super lightweighted. It's a few set of smart contract which is available on Mesh contract.
Cool.
And I will talk about the good one and also the one I intentionally break them. Yeah, to compare and contrast to check the subtle difference between those and learn about some of the common Cardano vulnerability. These are something that for all new smart contract developer that must experiencing or facing if the first few times implementing a script.
Beautiful.
So yep.
That's great. And those will open up a whole new set of new questions from everybody else too, I'm sure.
Yep.
Awesome. So that's the plan. We're going to keep this space running for the next few months. We'll probably take a break in June and July, just so, we can encourage each other to take a little time off, but also some time for deep work. But from now through the end of May, we can plan on this being the shape of these Aiken live coding sessions. So really looking forward to future questions, to the examples Hinson prepared, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of other stuff to look at over the next few months. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. See you soon. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers.
Yes.